Okay, everybody, welcome to your midweek, midday, as in noonish, sometime during the noon hour connection. I'm Robin Robinson, bringing you some other news you might not see in mainstream media or in broadcast media, or you may not see it from this perspective. We got three goals here. We want to have some fun. We want to tell the truth, and we want to make sure that it reflects Blackness, which is, of course, something that everybody can relate to, and especially me. So today, I want to talk to somebody that I think, first of all, is a great role model for what kind of career could I have that would put me in the arts, be really interesting and purposeful, so I wouldn't just feel like I was, working on a chain gang every day. And how do I get there? Also, uh, what how someone can have a career that what they do impacts you. What this young woman did impacted me in a very, very serious way. And I think that you will be also, if you'll follow her lead and my lead and watch the film that she curated for a recent film festival, the XL Film Fest, which of course was just last month. Troy Pryor's Creative Cipher put it on. It's amazing. It's much more than a film fest, but all that was filmed about it, this woman is responsible for. So please welcome my guest, NK Gutiérrez. Hi, NK.
Hi, Robin.
How in the world can I get your job? Okay, you're curating. You're also working with another upcoming film festival. What is your background? How did you get this career?
It's a career that chose me, is what I say. I was like the life that has chosen me. I'm an actor first. So I'm an actor, filmmaker, humanitarian, and I'm still acting. I have a BA in psychology and fashion, and when I was after I finished my internship with Neiman Marcus, I was a bridal consultant. And I was also like going on auditions at the same time, and they didn't know. But I eventually booked a three-part series, and not even eventually, pretty quickly booked the three-part series on HBO Latino, Habla Más, and that allowed me to get my first agent. And from there, my friends were like, "You could always be a bridal consultant. Like, you need to make sure that you're, putting everything into this." And so I was like, how do I do that and live? Well, the thing that I've come to realize is that everything that you do in your life and everything like from childhood, there's things that you're going to take with you always and allow you to set yourself up for success if you allow it to be so. And I think it's the hard lessons we learn and also tactical and practical things that you learn. And
Oh,
so
you got you. Mhm.
yeah, and so I was a makeup artist, and I started doing makeup professionally when I was 16, and I worked at the makeup counter at J.C. Penney in Topeka, Kansas. Not a skill that and I was like, I've always been really artistic or always worked to find ways to do things that I love and get paid to do it. And, I did not think that that particular skill would be what set me free and allowed me to do whatever else I wanted to do. But my friends were like, "You should freelance as a makeup artist." I was like, "I don't even know what that means." And, it's like when people speak things into the world, they manifest. And a few weeks later, um, the some of the folks that had been managing when I was an intern at Neiman's, I was the cashmere intern. They one of the women was like, "My niece is looking for some people for this new job, and I think that you should talk to her." And she came to talk to me, and her name's Layla. And Layla was like, "I'm an account executive for the skincare line, and my auntie said she think you'd be great to work with me." And I was at the Neiman Marcus in Oak Brook. So the challenge of being in Oak Brook was going to the city to go on auditions. And I'd wanted to be in the city. So I was like, well, what does that look like? And she told me, and I was like, okay. So I put in my 2-week notice and I started freelancing. So I was at Saks, Nordstrom, and Bloomingdale's on Michigan Avenue. And what that allowed me to do was then go on audition. So it's because I was a fragrance specialist and a kit skincare specialist as well as a makeup artist at 16 years old. All of those things I took with me allowed me to start going on auditions and just making it more accessible. Like I was like, I walked away from having benefits and I was like, okay, we're just going to try this thing. And here we are almost 20 years later. So makeup really allowed me to start moving the way that I wanted to move. And then from there, I eventually got to the point where I was like, I just want to be on set. I don't care if I'm in front of the camera or behind the camera. And so I would always watch what the makeup artists were using, and I would talk to the makeup artists. And there's one particular makeup artist that I asked, could I shadow you? I just want to be out of the store. And she was like, okay. So she let me come on the Second City shoot. I went and I shadowed her one day, and then she was like, oh, and then just started feeding me work.
Okay,
And
very
allowed
good.
yeah, so that just allowed me to start. So that's where I was working behind the camera. And then as an actor, especially as a Afro Latina actor who was not a size 2, I was not seeing roles that were aligned with the things that I felt that I could do or play. And I have a mentor, Morocco Amari, and he was like, while you're waiting, you should be creating. And I even take that a step further now. It's like, just don't wait and create
Mm,
always. And that I ended up taking a writing class with Ade Akisanya with over at Paymon Miss Masekwa's studio, P&M Studios in Hyde Park.
okay.
So I started taking writing classes over there while I was taking acting classes with Rock. And my friend Deandra ended up writing, or we all were taking class together. We were all actors, and we're like, let's just take these writing classes together. Deandra ended up writing her film first, shooting it, and then it ended up going to Sundance. So we went to Sundance together, and that was the year that Ava DuVernay won for Best Director.
For
And
us, was that?
it was some, but for
Oh, I
there
can't
we
remember.
go.
I can't remember. I can't
Oh,
remember.
it's on
Can't
the tip
remember.
of my tongue. I can see the film in my head.
It
Amari
was.
Hardwick's in it. I
It
can't
was
think.
okay, but we'll get
Yeah,
back to that.
we know, we know, we know.
You know,
She knows. They know.
right?
We'll put it at the bottom.
Yeah.
Anyway, and it's just the point of seeing somebody else that looks like you doing this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had the idea that January for the film, The Last New Year. And then October, November of that year, we had some other financial crisis in the world, all the crazy things that happened. And I
Mm-hmm.
lost all my freelance work doing makeup that December. So I was just sitting at home. It was the first time in my life, like I literally had nothing to do. And I was like, well, if I don't write this script now,
I
end up
have no.
writing. Yeah, no excuse. I had no excuse. And luckily, it was like my partner at the time, it was like I had a roof over my head. So I'm like, I could sit here and write. So in 3 days, I wrote the film, and then I sent it over to Rock, and he was just like, "Yo, mom, this is good," because that's how he talks. And then I was like, and I sent it to Ade, and I was like, and then I just get an email 3 days later saying we need to have lunch, and I was just like, "Oh, he's gotta break it to me easy while over salad. Like, what is he gonna say? What are these notes?" And we sat down, and he was like, "NK, you have to make this film." And I was like, "Really?" He's like, "I had no idea how funny you were. I had no idea." He's like, "I had no idea." And he was like, "And I'm blown away. You gotta do this thing." And I was like, "Okay." And by this point, it'd been some years and I've been acting. I'd created a network, created community organically, really in that space, really at P&M Studios with Rock, with Ade. And I was able to crew up
Right.
within a couple of days. And Natasha Parker, came to her and she thought I was going to ask her to produce it. And I was like, I want you to direct it. And so that was it. And what that allowed me to do is to then see, I ended up starring in it. It was the first thing I'd produced, and obviously I wrote it. I was able to get so present to what I knew and what I did not know very quickly.
Showed your
But what
gaps.
Oh, all of them. And everything that could go wrong did go wrong as far as, like, sound and, like, just, like,
I
in
mean, every
another
lesson that you could have
oh, all the things. And, so I was able to learn how to do, like, oh, what does ADR look like? What we had to do a pickup shoot, all these different things. And it allowed me to also see that I was like, oh, I know how to produce. And because I was a bridal consultant for Neiman Marcus, I know how to keep things organized. I know how to get things done. I know how to keep people calm. I have a degree in psychology. I know how to do these things. So I was able to see my transferable skills.
well,
And that
names
go ahead. I'm
just
sorry. Yeah. Go
no,
ahead.
just the titles of things can put people off. Like, what is a producer? Actually, and then you just listed off all the things you need to have. And you're like, oh, is that all it is? Or what is a director? What is an editor? What is I think that sometimes people say, I don't even understand the terms. I just know those are the people who get to work in the industry that I wish I could work in. So you have created learning space for yourself, and I love the don't wait, create. And so how did the film come out?
It came out well, and we premiered at Martha's Vineyard African American Film Festival, and that was my first. We premiered there, and then we went from there. We went to Louisiana, we went to Kansas City, and then we made our Chicago premiere at Black Harvest Film Festival, and that's what really led to me having a career in film festivals. From there, because I just put my foot in it, like I just showed up in my expansiveness, and the team that was at the film center at the time, Dion, Nicole Smith. There was like Lori Heil, who's still there, Sergio Mims, God rest his soul, who was a mentor of mine.
That's the
Um,
founder. For people who don't know, that's the founder of
yeah,
the Black Film Festival, which is housed at the Siskel Film Center, Gene Siskel
yep,
Film Center.
the Gene School Film
Actually,
Center.
and there is, and yeah, so we could talk about that maybe
Yes.
if you'd like. I find it a little interesting that they have a lot of other culturally specific festivals, but they're all owned by those communities, like organizations that represent those communities. Whereas Black Harvest is actually owned by the Gene Siskel Film Center, maybe. I don't know.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
but
You do
but
know.
there is, yeah,
That's correct.
there is a community council or something that made
Mhm.
up of Black people, since they are all Black films, and you were co-chair of that, correct?
Yes. Yes.
And now,
Yep.
and so now I don't want to skip over any of this because these are all steps to where you got to be in a position to change my life. But so tell me,
Mhm.
so your film goes gangbusters along the film festival circuit. You realize you
Mhm.
can do this and you can be a force in this as an executive on down.
Yeah. And so from there, I was just like, I'm definitely one of those people who ask for forgiveness, not permission. And I created the possibility of having an opening night reception for the film in that space. They're like, well, we won't charge you if you open it up to the public. And I was like, okay. And so I got a liquor sponsor, I got food sponsors. And, if there's anything that growing up being like a scrappy Latina, I was like in the Mexican community that I grew up in, like we just very much always did things together, and it was like always like if there was food needed, you go to the comadres or the to have them cook the food, and they provide it for the weddings, for the quinceañeras, for different, so for me it was always like, who can I ask? There's going to
Hmm.
be something I can ask that's going to provide food. So that's always been the mindset. And so that's what I did. I just asked a lot of, and the place that we even shot part of the film was owned by two Latina sisters from Mexico City, that they gave us a coffee shop. And then when I finally premiered, they donated food. And a Greek restaurant donated food, an Indian restaurant donated food. So you see all these brown people and Black folks coming and rising up to help me. And it was just very communal. And all I did was ask.
Yeah.
Um, and then there was like, and thinking of that, then I had a signature cocktail, and the woman who donated that was an Asian woman, and with her liquor company, like, so it was just all this. It was this like it's international community that came together. But from that, I was like, and I had like little popsicle, like, so the film, the cover art for it, which Cujo Da did, another prolific artist here in Chicago. Um, he made this cartoon image for my cover art of my film and for all the posters. So I had little popsicle heads made, and like did like group shots, like keeping
Of,
up with the
of that image. Well, tell me the
correct.
name of the film again.
The Last New Year.
The
And
Last New Year.
yep, and it's a comedic short about a woman who hasn't been on a date or laid in 3 years, and she vows it's the last New Year she's spending alone.
What's about everybody? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That part. And
Yeah.
I'm actually doing fundraising right now. So I'm turning it into an episodic. And now it's like Alyssa 10 years later. And it's called This Can't Be It.
This can't
Yeah, so it's like she's now in her late 30s. Think it was like, and knows less about dating and men than she did when she was in her 20s. It's like, this absolutely can't be it.
So this may be a silly question. Is there a place, a way, a method to be able to see that film?
Yes, you can actually go to nkgutierrez.com and you can see it there.
All right. That
Mhm.
is so exciting. So fast forward, you are now, after premiering with the Black Harvest here in Chicago, or in Chicago, with Black Harvest Film Fest, you joined their kind of guidance council, since it is supposed to be about, Black folks, the films, so that they need some Black folks input, if not ownership or leadership. Um, And then so you help with the programming of that, right?
Well, I mean, I was there. I
Okay,
was
so
there. And
this
yeah,
is it. This is another episode. We are going because they are, I don't like to drop salt till I have my whole salt shaker full. All right,
yes,
so get
yes,
some more. I want to get some more
listen.
details around that. But it is, we know that black film sells. In fact, it is at the core of the best-selling almost everything, right? In terms of in
Mhm.
the storytelling world. So having black film festivals was a great step forward, as opposed to just having black films that made other film festivals more profitable, fun, meaningful, etc. So having now black owned film festivals is just another step in. We don't want to just be consumers and contributors. We want to be owners and decision makers. So
Yes.
X Film Fest, which you joined forces with Creative Cipher and Troy Pryor to, and that's how I met you.
Mhm.
I'm on their advisory council, not because they're not black, but just because they want to hear from everybody, right? So it is, I think, the only black-owned film festival in the
Mhm.
region,
Wow.
and so I wanted to see the film. They had a lot of other stuff. They had great panels, great information. Were you amazed at how many professionals in the industry, from The Shy, from other ongoing productions, came and shared their wisdom and knowledge and advice with the emerging creatives that came to Excel? I was just, I was floored.
I was amazed I wasn't. I was filled with joy and just I felt complete at that because the thing is people want to do that. It's about creating the space for them to do so. And what happened was Troy created space for people to step into who they wanted and needed for themselves as they moved into the industry.
So, in other words, you knew that this is something that the Black professionals who have made it are really ready and eager to share that with other upcoming filmmakers. They were enthusiastic because even after the panels, they would go and talk to people one on one. It was, it's over now till next year, folks. Next year will be the third year of the XL Film Fest, but I think that's what sets it aside, is the kind of intimacy between audience and stage, right? It was the people
Yeah.
on stage felt like I was you and I still am, and I'm
Yes.
going to tell you what I know so you can be me. It was great. But then you curated the films,
Mhm.
and the feature film was Kimba.
Mhm.
And when I tell people, that changed my life, because
Mhm.
I'm very well aware and very, heartfelt misery over mass incarceration and the
Yes.
racial disparity of incarceration in this country. Black folks are not committing all the crimes, so why it is that the overwhelming population imprisoned is nothing less than racism,
Mhm.
systemic, structural, over many generations. But to narrow it down to females, Black females who are incarcerated, um, the way that film. How did you find Kimba the movie? First of all, the movie is about someone that some of us of a certain age may remember in the 90s, her parents' fight to get her out of prison, where she was condemned to 25 plus years
Yeah.
because her boyfriend was a drug dealer, right?
Exactly.
Well, picked a boyfriend, so it could have been any of us. But how did you find that movie, and what were your thoughts about what its impact could be?
Whew. So I can say that it was because of Black Harvest. I actually saw that film. Jada Amina, who's the curator who stepped in Sergio after Sergio passed, she programmed that film. And when I saw it, I was just like, what and why is there not more coverage around this? There was a few things that were missing for me, and one was that it was like there's two different theaters at the film center, and there's a large one and a small one, and it was programmed in the small one, and though it was double exposed, it was programmed a couple of days. It just I was like, this needs to be in the large theater, and we need the press to know what is going on, and because it had made its world premiere just the day before in Florida at a film festival. So
Wow.
the second place it showed was at Black Harvest in Chicago in the same week, like back to back. And I was just like, how is there not press junkets around this? How are we not? Where are the rally cries? I was like, immediately after, I was like, Kelly, which is the director, I was like, we have got to sit down and talk. And I called Troy immediately. And I didn't even know that Troy and Kelly knew each other. But I was like, Troy, there is this film and we have to get active and we've got to do this thing and we've got to do it now. This is not just a story about mass incarceration of a black. This is not a black woman story. I was like, this is a story about, I was like, yes, it's about mass incarceration, but it's also about human trafficking. It's also about, like, there's so many pieces to this. And,
Mhm.
I was like, and like the adultifying of young black women. I was like, you've got to be kidding me right now that we have not known about this story. But the thing was, and what I saw at Black Harvest was there were so many people in the audience at the talkback who did know about this story, who remembered it, who were at, HBCUs when this happened. And
Yep.
they remembered it. They remembered hearing, reading about it in Ebony, like all these, and I was just like, I didn't know, but there were a community of people who did. So I was like, how do we bridge the gap of the folks who already know about this, those who don't, and then get an action around these women who are still suffering behind bars and getting them out?
And getting them, so the action part, that
Mhm.
we talk about, everybody who signed on to the crime bill has apologized for that policy, from Joe Biden, who opens up the opening of this film with the political discussion and debate about the crime bill, which created these maximum minimum sentences that gave judges no room to look at whether somebody was a first time offender, a upstanding, citizen up till now, had support. They looked at nothing because the law gave them these maximum minimums. Must sentence anyone with this amount of drugs that you're claiming they had, to this amount of time in prison, which is how she ended up with 25 years. For some reason, I think we thought, oh, those people have gotten out now. They've realized that law was crazy and probably led to a lot of the violence that we have today, as you take away the mother or father or both from a family. But that they're still there. They are still there. I mean, when the Supreme Court decided that it was cruel and unusual to sentence juveniles to life in prison, they're getting out, right? But without, requires, she has to go for clemency to actually be released from prison. And I think that was what surprised me was, well, what do you mean the effects of this law are still in effect? There are
That
still people who are locked up. So we need letter writing, people need to be, not just watch the movie and be aware. They need to take action. So what that did for me was, I said, so first of all, I love the Harper Theater, but I need a bigger space with some more people, and the right people who will write letters, people who will then hold their own screenings. And this is a movie that is like, when I say change my life, it's like I need to work on this. I really, this is not fair and it's not right. Now, Kimba, I don't, spoiler alert, even though it's history, you can look it up. Of course, she got out, and she's now devoted her life to this cause. She has a foundation because of the women that she met in there. The other part of it being the information they put at the end that just really floored me was the vast majority of women who are incarcerated have been previous victims of domestic violence and sexual abuse.
yeah.
Usually with the person that they're in jail because of. As
Yep.
if you should have. Why didn't you tell on him? Well, I don't know. Maybe because I was afraid, or traumatized. It's a very interesting injustice system where
Mm.
that's concerned. So, are you hopeful? I think that the movie is going to be a big force behind pushing her clemency case, which is already, it's at the White House. The
Mhm.
Biden administration is about to be going out. Usually, presidents at the end of their term, that they get a little more clemency minded. Are you hopeful?
I am. And so I think let's take it back a step so that the audience knows that who is
Sure,
getting
we're not talking about Kimber anymore. We're talking about
right, yeah,
her
'cause Kimba's
former.
out.
Yeah.
However, I'll let you
Mhm.
tell because you just saw it. So tell them what got you in action.
Well, she's there. There was a lot. The last part of the film is her incarcerated. It's her in prison, and you see the other women around her, and you see their situation. Not just that it's very similar to hers, but their children trying to go through the trauma of visiting them in prison, and being, you can't get that last hug, you get torn apart. I mean, just the ongoing trauma for family, as well as the women themselves, and her, I want to say roommate, but cellmate, was a woman named Michelle West, and she is still in prison. She got 2 life sentences plus 50 years because her boyfriend, who was also her abuser, um, put out a hit on someone. And so, and she, probably had some part in that, whatever she was forced to do. I don't know the particulars. And people tend to be a little less sympathetic because this is not just first time drug offense. This is a loss of life. But if you look at the situation, it's really the same. It's really not being in control and then being penalized, over penalized for, I mean, the person that actually killed the person didn't go to jail. So
Exactly.
so Michelle West, and you can see her care for Kimba while incarcerated. You can see so many other women, right, who are in similar situations. So there is a clemency petition campaign for Michelle West, and that was kind of the end of the Kimba movie. And so her outcome should be, like Kimba's. She should have been out. I mean, she's been in there 20 years beyond Kimba.
Yeah.
Um, it's really incredible. And so and it's sitting, in the pile of requests for clemency with the Biden administration. Are you hopeful?
I am. I am. It's almost like the thing where it has you on the edge of your seat, like the film
Mhm.
did with Kemba and when Clinton was getting out of office and what was possible. And I would have not known any of these things were going on or possible to do anything about it in this way. Because you hear about clemency and, um, but to see it being done before, I believe it can be done again, and it's just up to us. Just like Kemba's parents, you'll see in the film what they did was that they put all of their energy in every single day to keep that conversation going and to keep their daughter's name at the top of that pile at all cost. And we got
And
to
it
do this, Michelle.
Yeah, and it was started by Black media. So
Yeah,
Emerge Magazine, which is no longer in existence. Most magazines are no longer in existence, as we know. The print world is difficult in the digital age. Did a story called Kimba's Nightmare. And the film highlights that. It talks about how the Divine Nine stepped in. It talks about, I mean, it is a film that will have you cheering and at times saying, "No, Kimba, run! No, get away from him! No, it, it really it had the range of emotions, and hopefully people will take away from the movie, if they see it, the idea that they need to go write a letter right now to the president and say, you need to give this woman clemency, Kimba's former cellmate, while she was
yeah.
incarcerated. And so we're going to have a screening here in Chicago. I know, I hadn't met you before. That I got to meet the woman that picked this movie for this film festival that is having me react like this. So we're going to have the details for everybody later, but we're going to have a screening, and we want people to come to see this story. But the power of story, right? That's what impressed me, is that how many other stories are there that just need a to be well done, get a play, right? I think there's a whole niche there, and in fact, the production company kind of behind this, I'm going to look into this more, but it seems like that's what they're on, is we're going to tell the stories of all these, unjustly incarcerated people.
Mhm.
We don't get, start getting desensitized to it, because frankly, there are a lot. But once you see the trend, wouldn't you think we could have some policy changes?
Yeah, I mean, that's the hope. I think, that's really the job of the artist is to bring true there are multitudes of truth, right?
Right,
That we could like, but to bring a truth that calls people into their humanity, calls people higher, calls them into action of looking at it's like, and just because you think something applied in one place, does it apply in all places? And what is the best next step?
right.
What are the things that we ought to be doing? And where can we continue to challenge the system and change the system? And I think that only comes about when artists stir it up
Stir it
and
up.
serve it to you and serve it to you so you could like look at this thing and doing it in a way too. I think, that's the beautiful medium of film. One that it's so it cross-pollinates all of the different artists and all of these different skill sets and brings it together, but it does it in a way that I feel is so inclusive.
Yeah,
Give and the story and you give stories in a way where people can see themselves, even if it's something that's never happened to them. You're able to see the humanity in people. And that to me is what changes the world. And that starts with artists getting in action, to tell these stories.
Absolutely, and especially if you're watching it with people, kind of
Yeah.
creates a connection among the viewers, the audience as well. I know that there is the campaign to free Michelle West. First of all, I'd like everybody to realize that you can just Google that, free Michelle West, and if you want to see the movie Kimba, now that you've missed the XL Film Fest, it is on BET Plus. A lot of people subscribe to BET, but not BET Plus. So it is my hope that BET will move it to the big BET, or even bigger, right? Let's. I mean, they were early supporters of the film. Got to give them that. Once again, black media, though not black owned media, is we. It's necessary if the stories that resonate with us, that are important to us, are going to get out there until we create our own media, right? Then, so go to BET Plus or write BET too and tell them put it on big BET. So it just needs to get to me a wider audience. And I'm telling anybody that wants to reach out to me and tell me if you agree with me that this is a movie that moves you to action and should,
Mhm.
then think about so Kimber's action, she did Get Out. Now it's action for Michelle West. There will
Yeah.
be Michelle West, was Kimber's cellmate for I think 6 or 8 years, and
Mhm.
there's another woman from Chicago who was her cellmate for another 10 years, who got out, who is helping with the Free Michelle West campaign. So it's like we are going to do this like dominoes, right? We're going to knock this injustice down, and they're working on a movie about her as well.
Wow.
So I see this as, finally we'll say, you know what? Obviously, this is not the exception. This is the rule of what's happening in our incarcerated population. Women are the fastest growing demographic of incarcerated people, and it's disproportionately women of color. There's no
Of
question about
course.
it. I mean, we can't just let it stand. So I
No.
stand with you, and we are going to use film. In fact, somebody at the XL on the panel. No, it wasn't. It was Kelly, the director of
Yeah.
Kimba. Said she started out in
Mhm.
documentaries because she wanted to change the world, and a
Yeah.
professor said, "Well, only people that are interested in that particular subject are going to watch your documentary. Make it a drama based on a
Mhm.
true story, and you draw the audience." I feel like that's what this did. So
That's
I
really good.
all right. Well,
Yeah,
so what
that's
are you doing next if people want to know, like, where they're going to catch? I've talked about this film, and my producer, my crack producer over here, Cindy Beasley's like, you asked for the trailer. Are you ever going to show it? Yes, I want to show a little trailer of Kimba to encourage everybody to see it, and then at the end of it, go on that next step with the filmmakers, which is toward freeing another black woman. Let's see the trailer.
Take me back to the beginning, before all this happened.
I wasn't even allowed to date until I was 18. Come on, Kimba. I don't fit in. By the time I got to Hampton, I couldn't wait to break free.
Kemba,
Dad, what are you doing here?
there are bounty hunters calling our house looking for Khalif.
They better not say nothing.
They wouldn't do anything like
You
that.
don't know what they were doing. You don't understand. I know where they live, Kimba.
If you cooperate, we can help you out.
You should listen to him.
I never dealt any drugs, but this says I did.
Drugs. They treated the girlfriend like the kingpin.
I want my daughter out of there, and I want her home. She got caught up in the war on drugs. They denied the appeal.
It's a fight they want, it's a fight they're gonna get. These ladies will help raise awareness of the case.
This is my story, too. Keep your head up.
Okay, so I'm tearing up just watching the
I
trailer.
know.
So it's that good, y'all. It really is.
It really is. And may I say, my invitation, if you choose to see it on BET Plus before you come to see it with us, which I say do both.
Mhm.
When you're watching this film, one of the things that I would really hear after the film, and people are like, I don't understand, like, I would have known, and I don't see how she could have went with this man. And my invitation to you when you watch this film is to do your best to remove judgment and get present to looking at the world through a child's eyes,
Right.
who's out on their own for the first time, learning, very specifically, a young woman learning how to process the male gaze, and
Mhm.
watch it from that space. And when you do that, see what's possible in your understanding of how people are trafficked every single day, specifically women.
Yep. Yeah. It's really something. And many of those watching it may not say so, but they knew a caliph. All right. They, got involved and barely got away from,
Barely got away.
charming, bad boy. But, and she even said it in the movie, you picked me because you knew I'd stay.
Yep.
So it was very specific. So yeah, it's a very good movie. It is, and what I love is that now you have Kimba and her parents continuing this fight for other women who are victimized first by a relationship and then by the system. And it was very I saw her real parents, and I just was it was because it's so clearly difficult for a parent, the mother, at first saying, oh, we're going to tell everybody that our daughter's in prison for so and then she became the biggest cheerleader ever. So NK Gutiérrez, film curator extraordinaire, as well as filmmaker, actor, festival coordinator and executive, and just an all-around great person, humanitarian. And so it's really been great to meet you at the XL Film Fest, and I see we're going to have a great screening. You guys, of course, it'll be the end of October, so, but you don't have to wait till then to see Kimba. You'll want to see it again with an audience full of people and with a panel that will hopefully include either Kimba herself or the director. Kelly, what's Kelly's last name again?
Kelly.
Well, heck, no wonder I couldn't remember it. Okay. So thanks again, NK Gutierrez. It was lovely talking to you. We'll talk again, and we'll be sending that invitation out for the screening of Kimba to assist the Free Michelle West campaign. Get Biden to give her clemency. All right.
Yes. Well, I can't wait to do this with you and see you again very soon, Robin. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for having me, and thank you for championing XL Fest, Kimba, women, Blackness.
Let's do all that. Okay. All right. Have a great day. That is in other news. That was some other news, wasn't it? There's some news in there that maybe you were aware of, but not as acutely, or maybe you weren't aware of at all. Try to see if you can't do something about this issue. We'll be talking about it several times over the next couple of months leading up to the screening that you will be invited to see Kimba and see what you can do about freeing Michelle West. Bye-bye.